I stood at the edge of my brother's engagement party, holding a glass no one had bothered to fill. The music was loud, the laughter was louder, and I was standing in the middle of all of it feeling like I didn't exist. Then my sister Vivienne leaned in close, her smile perfect for anyone watching, and whispered, "Let's be honest, Delphine. You'll always be second. In this family, you're just background noise." I hadn't even finished swallowing the sting of those words when the event host stepped up to the microphone and said, "We have a very special surprise tonight. Could we have Delphine Renault come to the stage?" Vivienne's smile cracked. The whole room turned to look at me. I didn't move. I had no idea what was about to happen, but my sister's sudden panic told me everything I needed to know. My name is Delphine. I'm 32 years old, and for most of my life, I've been the quiet one in a very loud family. I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the middle child of 3. My older brother, Theo, was the athlete, the charmer, the one everyone raised their glass to at every gathering. My younger sister, Vivienne, was the beauty, the social butterfly, the one our mother treated like a prized child. And then there was me. I was the one who cooked every holiday meal but never got a seat at the head of the table. The one who paid for her own college while my siblings got their tuition covered without a single question. The one who quietly started a small catering business out of her apartment kitchen after getting laid off from a restaurant job during a rough year. I wasn't glamorous. I wasn't loud. I didn't have a ring on my finger or a degree hanging on my wall. But I had something they never gave me credit for. I had a gift. And I'd been building something in silence for 3 years. To my family, I was just the one who cooks. They had absolutely no idea what that cooking had become. If you've ever been the one in your family who works the hardest but gets noticed the least, this story is for you. Before I tell you what happened on that stage, hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming. And if you've ever felt invisible at your own family's table, click hype right now. Let's get into this. It started 3 weeks before the engagement party. The whole family gathered at our mother's house to plan Theo's big celebration for his fiancée, Elise. Lorraine, our mother, sat at the dining table handing out assignments like she was running a production. Vivienne was put in charge of decor. Theo, obviously, was the star of the whole event. Then my mother looked at me and said, "You'll handle the food, of course. Nothing fancy, just your little dishes." I paused. I had been thinking about this moment for days, rehearsing what I wanted to say. I suggested hiring a caterer so that I could actually enjoy the party as a guest for once. Just once. The table went quiet. Then Vivienne laughed, this short, dismissive laugh that made my stomach tighten. "Del, come on. What else would you even do at the party?" My mother nodded like that settled it. "She's right, baby. Cooking is your thing. Let Vivienne handle the pretty stuff." I agreed quietly, the way I always did. But I asked for one small thing. I asked to be included in the toasts. Maybe say a few words about Theo, something to show I was part of this family, beyond what came out of the oven. My mother hesitated. She actually hesitated. Then she said, "We'll see. The toast list is already long. We don't want to drag the night." I sat there and felt something crack inside my chest. I wasn't even trusted to raise a glass to my own brother. But that wasn't the worst part. The week before the party, I found out that Vivienne had been telling our extended family that I had volunteered to do all the food because, and I quote, "she doesn't really have much else going on." One of my aunts called me on the phone, sounding all gentle and careful, and said, "Honey, are you doing okay? Vivienne said things have been rough for you financially." That was a lie, a complete lie. My secret catering business had been thriving for over 2 years, but nobody knew that. I called Vivienne that evening. I kept my voice steady. I told her I didn't appreciate her telling people I was struggling. She didn't even flinch. She smirched through the phone. I could hear it. I didn't say anything that wasn't basically true. "You cook out of your apartment, Del. That's not a business. That's a hobby." I went quiet. Not because I was weak. Not because she'd won. I went quiet because I had made a decision. That night, I called someone. I won't tell you who just yet. All I said was, "It's time. I'm done hiding." The day of the engagement party came, and I showed up after spending 2 full days cooking a spread that would have made any restaurant proud. Creole gumbo, handmade pastries with fillings. I'd spent months perfecting. a signature dessert that had taken me over a year to get right. The kitchen smelled like butter and brown sugar, and years of work no one ever acknowledged. I walked into the main hall and went straight to the seating chart to find my name. It wasn't at the family table. I checked again. It wasn't there. I'd been placed at a side table near the back, with distant cousins and a few of Theo's old college friends. I stood there staring at that chart, and Vivienne appeared beside me with a glass of wine in her hand. She shrugged. "We ran out of room. It's not personal." My mother said nothing. Theo didn't even notice. I sat down at my assigned table and smiled. I made conversation. I did what I always do. Then the toast started. Vivienne stood up with a microphone and gave this long, tearful speech about Theo. She called herself his closest sibling, his confidant, his best friend. She talked about memories I was never part of because I was always in the kitchen when they happened. And then, near the end, she mentioned me. One line. "And of course, thank you to my sister Delphine for feeding us tonight. She always keeps us full." The crowd laughed warmly. 80 people looked at me and smiled the way you smile at the help. I smiled back. But under the table, my hands were shaking. My cousin Nadine was sitting right next to me, and she leaned over and whispered, "That was cruel." "You know that, right?" I didn't answer. I excused myself and walked toward the hallway near the kitchen to get some air. That's when I heard my mother's voice coming from the other side of the wall. She was talking to Elise's mother, and she was talking about me. Delphine's sweet, but she's always been a little lost. Not like Vivienne. Vivienne's the one who really holds this family together. Then she said something that stopped me cold. "We worry about her. She doesn't have much direction. That's why we keep her busy with the cooking. It gives her purpose." I stood frozen behind that doorway. The sound of ice clinking in glasses and laughter floating from the party felt miles away. Years of invisible labor. Years of showing up, doing the work, keeping my mouth shut. And to my own mother, it was charity. Something to keep poor Delphine busy so she wouldn't fall apart. I didn't cry. I didn't storm out. I straightened my back. I smoothed my dress. I walked back into the main room, found Nadine's eyes across the crowd, and gave her a small, firm nod. Something in me shifted that night. Not anger, clarity. They didn't underestimate me because I was weak. They underestimated me because it was convenient. And I was done being convenient. What my family didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the little apartment hobby Vivienne laughed at had become one of the most talked about private catering brands in southern Louisiana. 3 years ago, I had started an anonymous catering company called Maison Noire. No face attached. No name. Just food. Extraordinary food. It spread through word of mouth, through a sleek Instagram page with no personal photos, and through a mysterious reputation that grew bigger every month. Maison Noire had catered private dinners for local politicians. A James Beard-nominated chef had publicly praised my food on social media. I'd been featured anonymously in a regional food magazine as the secret chef of the South. I kept it all anonymous on purpose, partly because I wanted the food to speak for itself, without my face or my family's opinions getting in the way. And partly because I knew, deep in my bones, that my family would either mock it or try to take credit for it. I had over 40,000 followers, a 6-month wait list, and a phone call from a nationally syndicated food show that wanted to do a live reveal of the anonymous chef behind Maison Noire. The reveal was supposed to happen the following month. But after what my sister whispered to me at that party, I moved the timeline up, and I chose the venue very carefully. Now let me tell you about Nadine. Every family has a so-called black sheep, and Nadine was ours. She was my cousin on my mother's side. Divorced, outspoken, and completely cut off from Lorraine's inner circle because she refused to play favorites or pretend that everything was fine when it wasn't. Nadine had discovered my secret 6 months before the party, purely by accident. She'd ordered from Maison Noire for a friend's birthday, and the moment she bit into one of my beignets, she knew. She called me that same night. "Girl, I know these flavors. This is your food." I swore her to secrecy. She kept her promise, but she had been pushing me for months to reveal myself. "You're hiding a whole empire because you're scared of what they'll say. But, baby, they're already talking. Might as well give them something real to talk about." After Vivienne's whisper at the party, Nadine became my co-conspirator. She was the one who contacted the food show's producer and arranged for the host, a well-known food personality named Damian Pierce, to attend the engagement party. He came under the guise of being a family friend of Elise's. Nobody questioned it. Meanwhile, Vivienne was getting bolder as the night went on, making little comments to guests about me being the family's little helper. My mother joined in, telling Elise's relatives, "Delphine's food is good for a home cook." Theo stayed oblivious, wrapped up in his own celebration, never once checking on me. Not once. Then the producer arrived. Vivienne spotted him immediately. She could smell importance, the way some people smell rain before a storm. She walked right up to him and started flirting, assuming he was someone she should know. He was polite, but kept glancing toward the kitchen. Toward me. Nadine caught my eye from across the room and gave me a look that said everything without a single word. It's time. The host walked to the microphone, and my sister was still smiling because she had no idea the next name he'd say was mine. The room was full. All 80 guests. Every cousin, every aunt, every friend of Theo and Elise, all gathered in that decorated hall with my food on their plates and my work in their stomachs. Damian Pierce stepped up to the microphone and introduced himself. The room buzzed with recognition. Vivienne grabbed Lorraine's arm and squeezed. "Oh my God, Mom, that's Damian Pierce from Plate and Place." Her eyes were lit up. She was already filming on her phone. Damian smiled at the crowd and explained that he was there for a very special reason. For 3 years, the food world has been obsessed with an anonymous chef who goes by Maison Noir. Tonight we're here to reveal who that chef is. The room went still. My mother looked confused. Vivienne held her phone up higher, thrilled to be present for what she thought was just an exciting moment she could post about later. Maison Noir has a 6-month waitlist, over 40,000 followers, and praise from some of the best chefs in the country. And she's been hiding in plain sight. He paused and let the silence do its work. Then he said it. "Could we have Delphine Renault come to the stage?" Silence. Total silence. Vivienne's bones slowly lowered from her face. Her lips parted, but nothing came out. My mother's mouth fell open. Theo turned all the way around from the head table and stared at me like he was seeing me for the first time in his life. I stood up. My legs felt solid. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. Nadine started clapping. Then one table joined, then another. Then the whole room erupted. Damian interviewed me briefly on stage. I was graceful. I was warm. I even made them laugh. He asked me why I'd stayed anonymous for so long, and I said, because I wanted people to taste the food before they judged the chef. The crowd loved that. Then he made the announcement that changed everything. He told the room I'd been selected for a full-feature season on Plate and Place, the first anonymous chef ever revealed on national television. The applause shook the walls. After I stepped off the stage, I barely made it to the hallway before Vivienne appeared. Her face was tight. Her voice was low and sharp. "You planned this. At Theo's party. You made this about you." I looked at her. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I made every dish at this party, Vivienne. Every single one. And you told people I was a hobby cook with no direction. I didn't make this about me. You made sure I was never about anything. I just corrected the record." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She turned and walked away. Then my mother came down the hallway, flustered, her face flushed. "Delphine, why didn't you tell us? We would have supported you." I looked at her calmly. "Would you? Because 3 hours ago, you told Elise's mother that cooking gives me purpose, because I don't have direction." "I heard you, Mom." Lorraine went pale. She had no response. None. Theo finally came over. He looked shaken. His eyes were wet. "Del, I didn't know." I nodded. "I know you didn't. That's the problem, Theo. You never looked." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I walked back into the party with my head held high, and Nadine was waiting for me with a glass of champagne. My episode on Plate and Place aired 2 months later. It became one of the most watched episodes of the entire season. Maison Noir went national. Within the year, I opened a small restaurant in Baton Rouge with my name on the door. Vivienne sent me a long text message apologizing. I read it. I didn't respond for 2 weeks. Then I replied simply, "I appreciate you saying that. I'm focused on my work right now. I set a boundary. I didn't burn a bridge. My mother tried to claim credit at church, telling everyone, I always knew she had talent. Nadine shut that down publicly. My mother stopped talking about it after that. Theo reached out to me genuinely. We started to rebuild slowly. He began showing up at my restaurant with Elise. They'd sit quietly, eat every course, and sometimes he'd just look at me through the kitchen window and nod. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. I spent 32 years being the quiet one, the one who served but never sat down. But silence isn't weakness. Sometimes it's preparation. And when I finally spoke, the whole room listened. If you've ever been the one who gave everything to your family and got treated like you were nothing, I see you. Your work matters even when they don't clap for it. I want to hear your story. Drop it in the comments. Tell me about the moment you stopped being invisible. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today, and click hype to help this story reach others who need it. If this story hit you somewhere deep, you're not alone. This channel is for people who've been underestimated, overlooked, and counted out, and came back stronger than anyone expected. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. I drop new ones every week, and trust me, the next one is going to leave you speechless. I'll see you there.